What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Tonight I wanted to talk about Bally's 1978 Galaxy. Galaxy is kind of the follow-up to Miss Universe. And if you will recall from my podcast about that, it is a very unusual bingo pinball. The idea on Galaxy, like many bingo pinballs before it, is that you want to make 3, 4, or 5 in a row in one of 4 different colors. You have red, yellow, green, and blue. Now each of those has a different set of odds, and as with all bingo pinball machines, your odds are key in understanding and playing the game. You drop in your first nickel, or quarter at this point, we're coming towards the end, and the game will reset. It will set your odds to the default, which in this case is 4 replays for 3 in a row, 8 replays for 4 in a row, and 32 replays for 5 in a row. For those of you that have been listening for a long time, you'll know that those 5 in a row odds are very low, especially for what a feat it is to get a 5 in a row. So we'll talk a little bit about why those odds might be so low here in a little bit, but your odds on this game go up to a max of 192 for 3 in a row, 384 for 4 in a row, and 768 for 5 in a row. So the max odds are actually a lot higher than they are on many of the games for 5 in a row. That's kind of weird. So you put in that quarter and you get your default odds, the 4, 8, and 32, and at that point you can shoot, or you can try to play for an increase in odds all the way up to that 768, or for additional features, or for both. And you do this with pick-a-play buttons on the front of the cabinet. There's a red button that plays for both features and odds, a green button for features only, and a blue button for odds only. So, what about these features here? Well, it's unusual. Most of the Bally bingos were a 5x5 grid, and then you had 25 holes on the playfield. And getting the balls into the appropriate holes, you would get 3, 4, or 5 in a row on the Backglass, and that's how you'd win. Well, for Galaxy, they changed the layout. And if you'll recall, from Miss Universe, there's only 18 holes. Galaxy has another one-off playfield that's only 24 holes. Now, if you take an experienced bingo pinball player and put him in front of Galaxy, they're going to be confused. So, let's talk about the features. This game has a moving numbers feature. It is unusual. It was only used in this game, and it works like the magic lines. So, again, if you've been listening for a while, you know that magic lines allow you to move one column of numbers up or down one position. Well, in this case, they sistered every 2 columns together. So the first 2 columns are one line, second 2 columns, another line, and then the last 2 columns, a third line. So you have A, B, and C. What happens is, when you push the A, B, or C button, it's going to move those 2 columns, which are sistered together, up or down one position in tandem. You know, you can't move each column individually like you can with pretty much every other Magic Lines game. So that's unusual. The other major feature of this machine is something that they call the ball return. And this works kind of like the hold feature. The hold feature, if you'll recall, allows you to hold only the odd numbers that you've hit, or only the even numbers that you've hit. But The ball return will allow you to return either the left half of the bingo card, the first 3 columns, or the right half, the second 3. And the way it denotes this is with either blue or green on the backglass. So as you hold down the left button, it'll say return all in green. And the actual bingo card has a light shade of green on the left-hand side and a light shade of blue on the right. So this game is pretty unusual. You're only allowed to use the ball return once, very much like the hold feature, unlike Surf Club where you can use it twice. You only get one shot, more like Palm Springs. This game also has a lamp that shows up that says diagonal score when lit. So you know how I mentioned that there were an awful lot of diagonals and it made an interesting pattern on the bingo card? Well, guess what? You don't even get to win on them unless you have the feature lit. That seems a little interesting because your max payout on any of the diagonals is going to be your 4 in a line odds, not your 5 in a line. None of the diagonals amount to more than 4 in a row. So that moving numbers feature, just like many of the other moving numbers features, does have a time tree, and the default is before 4th. So before you shoot your 4th ball, you have to pick the final position of each of those sistered set of columns, and then once you shoot, it's locked in place. This game also has before 5th and after 5th. On top of all that, it's got the extra ball feature. You can pay for a chance at up to 3 extra balls, so you have a total of 8 chances to get a 5 in a line. Now, let's talk about the good points. I've kind of opined while I've been doing this about the gameplay, and I've never played one of these, so in all fairness, this may be a fun player, and I just don't know. But from appearances, it looks like this game gives you a lot of chances to shoot yourself in the foot. First of all, sistering together the columns of numbers into moving together is kind of tricky. So if you think about the 20-hole games with the Mystic Lines feature, alright, you have columns which are sistered together, but what they do is swap positions. They don't actually move up and down together, in step with each other. They swap with each other. This gives you the ability to put something in another place that's going to be pretty helpful. In this case, it allows you to move your numbers into a different row or a different diagonal arrangement, but not all of them, because there are only 2 diagonals you can hit with any given set of numbers. So on top of that, because diagonals don't score by default, well, there's a lot of ways to lose on this game. I'll just say that. If you are good at making your numbers, and again, because this uses a non-standard playfield, it's going to be different, a challenge. On top of that, it doesn't use the same arrangement of numbers that you might be used to from playing a 25-hole bingo. So instead of the familiar 9, 1, 2, 11, you have 9, 8, 22, 6. And those are quite different numbers that are much more challenging to hit. That 22, of course, you got to swing all the way down to the bottom of the playfield. And there's a lot of peril in doing that. I mean, it's dangerous. So let's talk about artwork. The Backglass on Galaxy is a space theme. You've got a really futuristic-looking spaceship on the upper left-hand side. The word Galaxy right in the center at the top, and a sun over to the right. Behind the bingo card, you have kind of a spiral design, which kind of resembles an interpretation of a black hole. Each of the features, odds, and other indicators on the backglass appears to be flying out at you, which is a cool effect. The cabinet is blue, and it's got a spaceship which is weaving a yellow trail all the way across the bottom of the cab and up through the head. And I've talked before about how much I love the bingo stencils and the way that they unified the artwork across the cab and the head. And this one has what I think is a pretty neat stencil. It's not super detailed, but I do like the spaceship, and there are planets, or stars, not sure which litter the landscape that the spaceship is flying through. So, looking at the playfield, again, this appears to be a plastic-coated playfield that Bally switched to here towards the latter days of production. And the design is fairly plain. There's no special graphic, but the design is evocative of the rest of the artwork. It uses shades of blue and circles to denote far-off planets or stars, and each of the numbers jumps out at you much like the text boxes on the backglass. I think that's cool. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, what I don't agree with is this particular playfield layout. You've got one of the all-time weirdest designs, I think, for a playfield layout. The biggest thing, which I see now and had forgotten up to this point, is that there's no ball return. So this game plays like a one ball, except that you have the ball return feature. So essentially, this game is a great way to take your money and you've really got to make your numbers in order to make this count, because if you miss, then you wind up in another hole or just hanging out at the bottom of the playfield. Weird. So with the Turf King that I picked up, I have a newfound appreciation for the one-ball horse race games, and this kind of plays like a one-ball from appearances, except for the fact that you can shoot 5 balls, first of all, and also return some of them. Just unusual. I would love to give this game a shot. That said, I don't know, without playing it, if it would be a keeper for me. And I have to say that there are so many games that I have played that I would love to have in my collection that I don't know that this one would make the cut. But it is certainly interesting, and it proves to me that Bally was still trying to innovate and experiment with the bingos this far into 1978. So there is that to recommend it. So, does anybody out there have a Galaxy? Let me know how you like it. I'd love to hear opinions. I certainly have one, but I'm sure there are some who hold the opposite opinion. So, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know. Thank you very much for listening. That's all for tonight. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line at 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.